Good morning, children. We see active voice, passive voice. Active voice, passive voice. If we give importance to the doer, our topic is if our topic is about the person who is doing activity. Suppose I write grammar. Here topic is about I, me, and the doing person is I. So importance to I. Ramu writes grammar. Ramu is a doer about writing work. Next topic is about we are talking about Ramu. So Ramu is the subject, and the subject is doing the activity. Hence it is called active voice. And if we give priority to the work done or receiver of the work, if we give importance to receiver of the activity, then it is said to be in passive voice. Okay, now there are certain rules to change active voice into passive voice. Rule number 1, object changes to subject. Rule number 1, object changes to subject. While changing object into subject, if there are any nouns, then what you have to do, you will have to use the same nouns. And if suppose there are any pronouns, then you will have to change them into their subjective case. Objective case and a subjective case pronouns. Objective case me, subjective case I. Us, we, you, them, they, him, he, her, she, it. Next, step number 2, what you have to do, if there are any helping verbs in the sentence, given sentence, what you have to do, you will have to write the same helping verbs according to the new subject. Okay, now active voice helping verbs according to the new subject. Next, if not there, if there are no any helping verbs, then you need not worry about them. You just leave, forget about the rule. Next, if there are any do forms, what you have to do, you will have to forget the do forms.
Sir, why we have to leave do forms only?
We have to leave do forms because they are simply helpful in making questions and making negatives. If there are no helping verbs, we can't make negatives or we can't make questions. That is why we take additionally in active voice. But in passive voice, some other passive helping verbs will be there. That is why we need not use again do forms. Okay, I'll explain that why it is with the examples further. Okay, next step number 3. Step number 3, passive voice helping verbs. Passive voice helping verbs. These are compulsory helping verbs we have to use in passive voice as a step number 3. V1 is there in the active voice. Then we have to use is for singulars, am for only I, and next are for plurals. Next, if the active voice verb is in simple past V2, then what we have to use? We have to use was and for singulars and were for plurals. Next, if there are any modal verbs you know very well. Will, shall, can, could, may, might, must, that are modal verbs. Whatever the modal verbs you see in the active voice, then in passive voice you need to include be. Additionally, you will have to write be. Then next, if there are V4 forms, V4 forms in the active voice, then you need to write ing form that is related to being. Ing form related being, that you need to write in the passive voice additionally. Then next, if any have forms are there, if you notice any have forms in the active voice, then what you have to use been you will have to use in the passive voice. Next, only V3 form, whatever the verb is given in the active voice, maybe it is V1, V2, V3, V4, whatever the verb is given in the active voice, for that only you need to write a V3 form. The next, after that, step number 5, what you have to do, you will have to add a suitable preposition. Mostly we use to, by, sometimes to, sometimes with, sometimes in, at, etc. Some other prepositions also we use. Then lastly, sixth rule, what you have to do, subject should change into object. Same again, nouns are there, same, pronouns are there, objective case you have to write. That subjective case we know, I, we, you, they, he, she, it, these are subjective pronouns. For that same, me, us, you, them, him, her, it are objective case pronouns. Where we are writing at the subjective case, then use the subjective pronouns. We are writing at the objective case, then use the objective pronouns. That is the case. That is very important in passive voice. And the names are there, you need not to worry about them. Simply write the names. Next. And remember, I is always capital letter. Maybe it is in the object, maybe it is in the middle of the sentence, maybe it is at the beginning of the sentence. I, pronoun I is always pronoun. Not I in ice cream. Not I in ink pot. Ink pot, ice cream, maybe at the beginning they will be capital letters. But if they fall in the middle, they will be small letters. But I, pronoun I, related to myself, which indicates me or myself, then in that case definitely you will have to use I always capital letter, because nobody thinks that I am useless. Everybody feels that everybody need courage, everybody needs self-respect. That is why if you want to give respect to yourself, then what you have to do, you will have to treat yourself plural or great. When you consider plural or great, then what you do, you have to capitalize it. Right? Okay. The next, step number 7, punctuation mark. Punctuation mark, generally what punctuation marks will be there in passive voice? Maybe period or maybe question mark. Okay, now only 2 types of punctuation marks will be used in passive voice, either period or question mark. Period is also known as full stop, or in other words dot. Okay, right? And question mark, right? Only these are two possible punctuation marks. We'll find some examples by using all these rules. Ready? Continue. We'll do some examples. Ramu drives a car. Ramu is a singular. So what we have to use? Ramu is a singular. So we have to use a singular verb if it is a present tense. V1 means we have to write yes or yes because Ramu is singular, third person singular. It is third person singular. So what you have to use? You have to write yes or yes to verb. That means that verb will become singular. Now this is a plural. When there is no yes or yes to the verb, then it will be plural. When there is yes or yes to the verb, then it is singular. As Ramu is singular, we have to use singular verb, which is drives. Okay. Ramu drives a car. Ramu is subject, drives is V1, car is object. A car is object. Now, if we want to make a negative to the same statement, we always required, we simply never write, we do not write negative, not. If we do not write like this, we cannot write like this, Ramu not drive a car. It's absolutely wrong. So we need some helping verb. What helping verbs we take? V1 related helping verbs we take. What are that V1 related helping verbs? Do forms will take. Do forms, V1 what are? Do or does. Next, V2 is did. V3 is done. So verb drives is there, drives V1 singular is there, Ramu singular. So we have written drives. Okay, now for the drives is there now, drives, what we have to do? We have to use do forms because drives is V1, and here we have to use do forms means do we have to write, and here drives is there, additional SRES is there. In that case, what we have to do? We have to shift that SRES to do forms only. That means do plus SRES is equals to does. Do plus SRES is equal to does. Do plus SR is equals to does. So here drive plus SRES, drives we got. From that SRES we are shifting to do forms. That means do plus SRES is equals to does. Ramu does. Again we can add a negative form. Does not drive a car. Now this is a negative statement. Now let's see how we write simple past tense. Simple past tense, subject plus V2 plus object. He invited me. Okay, this is subject to V2 object. Next, for this also there are no helping verbs. We cannot make negatives or we cannot make questions. So that is why what we have to do? We need to use helping verbs. We need to take a helping verbs. We have to helping. They will help. That is why they are called helping verbs. They will help us in our problems. So that is why they are called helping verbs. So what we have to do? We need to take do forms helper. Now this is V2 form. So what we have to use? Did. Because did is V2 form of do forms. So what we have taken? Did. And when we are shifting our work to our helpers, then we will be free. That means we will be V1 base form. We will be free. So do forms after what we have to use? Only base forms we have to use. Okay, now right. He did not invite me. That is a case. You need not write again. Did not invited me is absolutely wrong. Okay, now did not invited me is absolutely wrong because you need to use only V1 base form if there are do forms in your sentence. Right? Okay. Next, let's see. Let's find out some answers based on the previous rules which we have learned. Now, first, passive voice means what you have to use? Cross symbol. Cross symbol you will have to use. First cross, right to left down. Next, second cross, left to right down. Cross symbol. Right. Now, object to subject. Step number 1. Step number 1. A car. Next, a car. First object is changed to subject. A car. Then next. Now this is V1. Okay now. And here no helping verbs are there in this statement. In this statement, no helping verbs. Step number 1. What we have done? Object changed to subject. Name. It is name. That is why we have written same name. If it is pronounced, then we would have changed. If it is not pronounced, so we have written same name, right? Okay. Next, step number 2, what we have to do? Active voice, any helping verbs are there, we have to see. Active voice, any helping verbs are there? Not there. So, leave. Don't worry. Step number 1 completed. Step number 2, leave. Next. Step number 2, leave. Step number 3. This is V1. So, what helping verbs we have to use in passive voice? In passive voice, we have to use V1 related. V1 related is or am or are. Since this car is singular, what we have to use? We have to use is or am. Am is used for only I. So what we have to use? Only is we have to use. Right? Now step number 3 completed. Step number 4. What is step number 4? Step number 4 is only V3 form. Only V3 form. What is V3 form of drive? Drove, driven. So what we have to write here? Driven. Next. A car is driven. Next, preposition by. Step number 5, preposition by. Next, step number 6, names of object, subject changes to object. Subject changes to object. Names are there means same, right? Pronouns are there means change them into objective case. So name it is there, same right. It is proper noun, so capital right. Okay, now next completed. Last step, never forget last step compulsory. This sentence is the assertive sentence. So what you have to use a dot is there. Here also dot is there. That means period is there. You will have to use a period. That is the case. Now let's see the passive voice for this one also. Then we can understand more clearly. We can understand more clearly. Right. Ramu does not drive a car. Step number 1, active voice. A car is the object that changed into passive voice. Next, step number 2, active voice helping verbs are there. You see, there. But what helping verbs are there? Do forms are there. Do forms are there means we should not take them. We should leave them. Okay. Here, why we have used this do forms? Because to make negative, we need compulsory some helping verb. So that is why we have used does not. But in passive voice, a car is driven by Ramu. For this statement, it is easy for us to make not. See, if you simply put not here, you can put here not. Because there is some helping verb. There is some helping verb here, so you can put not. For this statement, this negative came. For this statement, here negative comes. Okay now. That means you can add not here and simply write here. A car is not driven by Ramu. What did we do here? More clearly you will have to understand here. What did we do? We have written Ramu drives a car. For this statement, negative is this. Negative is this. Here, no helping verbs. So, we have written do forms as a helping verbs. And then only we have added not. For this statement, passive voice is this. Here already one helping verb is there. So, why do we need again do forms? We need not do forms. That means we can drop this do forms. That because we are going to get a passive voice helping verb in passive voice which is we are going to get that is why we drop this and we will not be worried about helping verbs because we will be getting a helping verb in passive voice that is and you can add not easily, not no need of worrying. One more be forms helping verb or do forms helping verb. Okay, next let's see. He invited me. He invited me me is the object. Pronoun me is the objective case and for this subjective case is I. And next active voice any helping verb is there? Not there. Not there means leave. The next what we have to do is V2 form. V2 form means what helping verbs we have to take in passive voice? Was or were. I is a singular. So use was. Use was. I understand. Okay, wait. But can't write properly. I was invited by him. Now let's see. Objective changed into subjective case. Active voice helping verbs not there, left. Passive voice helping verb written was or were because V2 form. So what we have written? V2 form helping verbs we have taken. Next V3 form of the verb. V3 and V2 same. Invited. Okay. V3 form. Next preposition by. Then subject changed into object. Then punctuation mark. This is the passive voice. Next. I was not invited by him. simply making negative for the given active voice. Positive as active voice, positive passive voice. For that statement, negative we made. Okay, now that is why we dropped did. Okay.